everybody. Today we're doing a little something different. We're gonna do some ASMR. Just kidding, we're talking about murals. Oh, does that affect it? What's up, you? I'm iCough, and welcome to my podcast, the iCough Art Podcast, the Fart Podcast. We're going to talk about some art, folks. Today, the topic is murals. Why I paint them, and why I think you should consider painting them too. I have the authority to speak on this subject because I have been a professional muralist for over 3 years, and that means I've been paid to paint murals. They make up a substantial percentage of my income. I think painting murals is a great idea, no matter what kind of artist you are, particularly 2D artists. If you create imagery and you want to make a full-time living with your art, consider mural work. So let's dive into the reasons why murals are a good idea for any artist. Number 1, murals are fucking cool. They are dope. You know it when you see one. Some of them are better than others, but I believe that murals can have a far bigger impact than just your ordinary painting. They truly transform a space. Now, I'm not hating on normal size art, but there's just something impressive about large-scale work. When you as a viewer are looking at a mural and you just kind of feel small in the presence of that art, that makes an impact. There's something magical about that. You kind of have to respect it. To quote designer Paul Rand, if you can't make it good, make it big. And if you can't make it big, make it red. I don't understand the psychological intricacies of what he's trying to say, but it resonates, at least the big part. I don't really understand the red. I guess it's flashy and it's the first color you see, so it's attractive. And we're trying to have some sort of psychological play with the viewer. And that saying just kind of sounds cool. I first felt inspired to paint murals when I was studying abroad in Europe. I was stationed in Florence, Italy, which is the heart of the Renaissance. And so I was surrounded by iconic masterpieces. There was Michelangelo's, Da Vinci's, Donatello's, all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But none of the art in the museums struck me quite like the murals that I saw whenever I visited London. I come from a small town in Missouri, so the only street art that I was ever really exposed to was the graffiti that you could see from the highways while driving through St. Louis or Kansas City. So when I walked out of the subway and saw a huge lion mural by Faith 47, I was struck. I was lit up. I immediately thought, I want to do that. And for some reason, I kind of felt like I could. Not at all like I'm comparing myself to Faith 47, but I was still inspired. It was probably the biggest epiphany that I had ever experienced, that maybe this is something that I should be doing. I was never so inspired to create art, to be an artist. So yeah, murals are cool, needless to say, at least from my perspective, and maybe you disagree, but I think millions of people feel the same way. Reason number 2. High visibility. I've done plenty of private commissions for clients inside their homes, but for the most part, most of the murals I've painted have been exterior murals in public view. This is really great for your business as an artist. It's basically free advertisement. I know this because the first mural that I ever painted in public has brought me several more commissions. This is great exposure. It broadens your audience. Each mural that I paint, that I get to put my name on, is basically an asset for more of a following and more opportunities. People also like taking pictures in front of murals, let's be honest. And that's another great way to expand your following, because they share it with all their friends, and then they go take pictures in front of it, and it just is compounding. And that's a great asset. So yeah, murals are a good way to make your art more visible. Number 3, I think that murals make a bigger impact on the community. Because murals are in public view, your art can reach a more diverse audience. In a gallery setting, your art is kind of limited to upper class people that can afford to buy expensive art from a gallery. And I'm not hating on that. I'm not hating on rich people. If you're rich, you have money, you want to give some to me, buy my art, I would be happy to sell it to you. But public art is accessible for everyone, whether you're wealthy or you're poor. I've befriended several homeless people while painting murals. Not sure if that's incentive, but I'm just saying that public art does not discriminate on the demographic of the viewer. Doesn't matter where you come from, what color you are, and what you have in your pockets. As long as you're in the space where a mural has been painted, you get to experience that art, and that's magical. You can make an impact because I believe that mural work is energy work. Really, all art is an energy transfer. As an artist, you put energy into the work. So if this is in public view, you're putting all of that energy into your murals, and I believe that that energy is transferred to the viewer. In the best case scenario, the people that are looking at the mural can experience any sort of positive emotion that you put into the artwork. And that basically makes your mural like an asset for spreading joy. I truly believe that art enhances people's lives. So when you share your art with other people, you are spreading joy in the most abundant and contagious way possible. And honestly, as far as your community is concerned and the impact you can make with painting murals, I feel like it just gives people something to talk about. In my hometown, I've painted a handful of murals, and I like to think that anytime there's a new mural up, maybe you got relatives coming in from out of town and you don't know how to entertain them, so you can just say, oh, let's go down to McClung Park and check out the new mural by Eichhoff, see the dancing squirrels. Just gives us some flavor to the city that you paint in. In fact, a lot of the big murals that I've painted for communities, the municipal projects that I've worked on, I've gotten thank you letters from members of the community for sharing my art because it's been impactful for their communities. They enjoy seeing that art on their commute to work or as they're walking around town. It makes a bigger impact than maybe I even give myself credit for. So yeah, community impact, huge reason why you should maybe consider painting murals. If you want to make an impact, it's a good way to do it. Number 4, I think it makes you better as an artist to paint murals. There are a lot of challenges that come with painting murals, and challenges just make you better. It's not easy. It takes planning, and it's physical. I think painting big makes you understand your work better. You almost have to dissect your imagery in order to make your painting process sustainable. And since you're upscaling your work, it kind of forces you to reimagine how to build shapes. You're not using that same little brush on a small canvas and getting away with little incidental marks. You have to move your whole body to create just a 4-foot line, which in a huge mural really only equates to just this little which is just like a little of your wrist before. Now you got to move your whole damn body. So it kind of shifts your mindset of how to create imagery, and that'll help you grow. Plus, once you paint something bigger than your body, that just gives you confidence. If you ever feel anxiety about starting a new painting in your studio, go out and paint a mural, and I guarantee you that anxiety will reduce the next time you start a canvas because you've got that under your belt. You have that experience of painting something massive. So it makes painting something smaller seem a whole lot more digestible. And competence breeds confidence. So that alone is reason to try and paint bigger. What do you think? Reason number 5. This might be the most motivating reason to paint murals. It certainly was for me, and that is that murals are financially fruitful. As I said before, murals make up a huge percentage of my income, probably like 90%. I've sold hundreds of paintings. I've done a bunch of commission portraits, a bunch of small paintings. I've sold a lot of stuff at art shows, but the cumulative income from selling work that I've already created or even commissions is not really sustainable to pay my bills, even, much less to live the lifestyle that I want to pursue. So if it weren't for mural work, I probably wouldn't even be a full-time artist. I'm not lying. That's no joke. My art career is based around painting murals, period. And I think there's a lot of reasons for this. I think one of the biggest reasons is the difference in clientele. You're not selling to your great auntie who wants you to paint a portrait of her little dog for $100. Your clientele with mural work: business owners, property owners, city organizations, arts foundations, community art organizations, etc. These people typically have more money to spend on art. A lot of times, cities will have funds or grants available to commission murals specifically. They have set budgets of 4 to 5 figures that they have to spend on murals. Let's just do a quick breakdown. So say you get paid $5,000 to paint a mural. Maybe you spend like $1,500 on materials, so you're bringing home $3,500. Maybe it takes you 2 weeks to paint that mural. You do that 20 times in a year, and even if you take 2 months off in the slow season, you're still bringing home $70,000 before taxes, that is. But while we're on the subject of taxes, did you know that murals are taxed as a service and not sales? So if you want to make a living off of selling your art, your small canvas work, you're not only paying income tax on the profit, but you're also paying sales tax. That doesn't exist with mural work. It's just income tax. That alone is financial incentive enough to just paint murals. So maybe you don't want to paint 20 murals in a year because it is tough work. Even if you do a dozen murals, one a month on average, you'd still be able to pay your bills, live comfortably, and then you have all that extra time to do whatever your heart enjoys to do. You can work on canvas in your studio, you can paint on your iPad, Procreate, you can crochet, whatever you want to do when you're not painting murals. But it's hard to beat the financial rewards for painting murals. I just can't think of anything other than that would have as much of a financial impact for your life. Now, I do have a bonus reason, and that is travel. I love to travel, but I don't like to do touristy stuff. I don't like to travel for travel's sake. I like to go on a mission. I like to have a purpose for traveling. And painting murals is just the best reason for me to travel. I can go bring my art to other communities and other towns. I can share my creativity with other communities that may not have seen me before. And I can leave that, and it could be something that impacts that community for generations, as long as the paint holds up, and that feels really good to do. This could be a con too, because travel is exhausting and it can be isolating. It's lonely. You're moving away from your family and friends when you travel, and it takes a lot of energy to travel. But for me, it's worth it. It's something that I really want to do, and I want to continue doing because it's just fun. It's fun to explore the world. You learn about yourself. You learn about the rest of the world. You get a bigger, broader perspective on the rest of the world and people and how different and similar you can be. And painting murals while you're at it, instead of paying money to go travel somewhere, and I'm just not much of a tourist, so if I'm going to spend my money to go somewhere and see some cool things, there's just not really that many cool things that I can justify spending my time and money on. I'd rather be working. I like doing what I do, so if I can travel and get paid to do so, that's a win-win, baby. I love it. Maybe that's a con for you. Maybe you don't like to travel. Maybe you're a homebody. I like a little bit of both. I think balance is great. So that's why this is my bonus reason to paint murals. Traveling, it's got its pros and its cons. Speaking of cons, I can't just talk on and on about the good things about painting murals without mentioning some of the drawbacks, because there are quite a few. Some negatives to consider with mural work. Number one, it's physically demanding. The bigger the wall, the more energy it takes to paint it, and it's more taxing on your body. I have definitely sacrificed my body when painting murals. I've sustained multiple injuries. I remember one specifically when I was painting in Columbia, Missouri, which is one of my biggest cumulative mural projects to date. I painted for a week straight, 6 or 7 days, and I painted all day. Didn't really give my body time to relax or rest at the end of the day. I kind of just plopped on a couch or the bed after I was done painting. Didn't spend much time stretching out my body. And I also wasn't working out. I took a couple weeks off of the gym because I was so physical painting murals. And after I finished the mural, the very next day, I went to the gym and tried to make up for lost time out of the gym and was doing leg press, and I threw out my back, which made me out of commission for about a month. I was unable to paint another mural for another month. I could hardly walk for the next week or two. So you got to take care of your body because this is taxing work. And yeah, you got to be careful. And you also have to view your body as an asset. This takes a lifestyle commitment. If you want to paint murals, you kind of have to treat your career like it's a professional sport. You're basically an athlete when you're painting murals. That means you got to stay healthy. You got to eat good food for you that sustains your health and is nutritional. I know a lot of artists are emotional beings, so they like to eat comfort foods. They consider themselves foodies, especially when you're traveling. You want to try the local fare, but you got to have your priorities set. It's okay to have some delicious, tasty food, but if your priorities are more heavily based around having a palatable food experience and not taking care of your body, then you're putting yourself at risk. And on top of that, if you're going to be lifting 5-gallon buckets and throwing ladders around and jumping up and down from scaffolding and lifts, you better be hitting the gym. Lift some weights. You have to. I would not be able to do what I do and paint murals in an efficient, sustainable way if I didn't lift weights 3 or 4 times a week. It's a part of my lifestyle. It's a part of my health regime. I'm protecting the asset that is this body. So, sorry to bro out on you, but it's just the truth. You got to take care of your body. You got to be healthy. You got to take it seriously because murals, serious business. And speaking of harm to your body, not only injuries are you at risk of, but a lot of the chemicals that I use, a lot of the paint products that I use, especially aerosol paints, are toxic. So I'm trying to move towards more sustainable ways of painting, trying to get my roller and brush game up. I worked so hard to become proficient with aerosol paints because it is faster and a lot of it more versatile, especially with surfaces of walls, any wall with texture or brick or whatever. Aerosol paints, you can't beat it. It's really great. You propel the paint into it, but that shit's toxic. I know, I've breathed it in before and I've suffered the consequences. I've gotten respiratory infections from this stuff. So I'm trying to move towards more safe practices, always wearing gloves, safety glasses. I'm actually going to start using a full face respirator. It's non-negotiable. You might look like a dork, but you got to protect the asset. I want to paint for the rest of my life. I'd like to paint murals well into my 70s and 80s if I am able to, and that is going to require taking care of this body because it is an important asset for this work. And at the end of the day, mural work is manual labor. Yeah, being an artist involves a lot of creativity. It's a mental game, it's an emotional game, psychological, spiritual, but it's also physical work when you're painting murals. So you got to treat it as such. Make sure you give yourself time to rest and recover your body because it is physically demanding. It can also be stressful mentally and psychologically and emotionally. There are a lot more logistics to take care of when you're painting a mural as opposed to just painting a canvas. You basically have to be a project manager or hire one. These are good problems because once you learn how to do it and you get a system down, it just makes you a better person. Makes you better at business, makes you a better artist, a better person overall. Another con, I think there was like 3 cons, I didn't number them, but this would be con number 4, is commercial art, the sellout concept. So a lot of artists, are afraid of selling out. They want their artistic practice to be pure. And unfortunately, a lot of public art, a lot of mural work is very commercial. Whether you're painting a brand or you're just catering a lot more to your client and what they want. They're going to be paying a lot of money for these murals, so they feel entitled to ask for really specific things that might not be in your realm of creative practice. Maybe it's not in line with the themes that you commonly pursue with your personal taste, your style, and what have you. So you might feel a lot more like a sellout when you're doing mural work. I'm not going to try and persuade you to compromise these things if it's personal to you, but I will argue that anything that you do in exchange for money is selling out. The definition of it. Maybe you want your art practice to be so pure that you don't even want to base your income around it. So you have a full-time job. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, you're selling out to that job. Every second that you give to your employer in exchange for money is selling out your creativity. If you could be making something on your own and that is more resonating with your heart, despite loving your job or not, you're still selling out because you could be creating something that's even more true to your heart. So this is a spectrum. I honestly think it's worth it because you can make more money from murals, which gives you more free time. So, I don't know, debatable, subjective. That's up to you. How much are you willing to sell out for your art? The 5th and final con, the drawback of painting murals, is it just takes a lot of time. And there's a couple different ways to look at this. It just takes more time to build an image, to create an image. There's more planning involved. It takes physically longer to paint the damn thing. And I think the worst part about that is throughout the year, if you're just painting murals and you're not keeping up a good studio practice, I think it kind of slows your progress of being a good image creator, if that makes sense. It's just a quantity game. And I'm going to talk about this actually in the next episode of this podcast of the value of creating small scale work in order to produce more in a shorter amount of time. When you're painting large scale works, it limits your ability to do this throughout the course of a year. You just can't create as many images, which limits the amount that you can learn from the process of creating imagery. Still think it's worth it. You just maybe won't be able to develop some of the more intricate parts of your style as well as you would be if you just painted smaller works and were able to paint 2 or 3 times the amount throughout the year. So, if you are a 2D artist of any kind, if you are an illustrator, if you're a designer, if you're a painter, whatever, you can find a way to translate your art into mural work. You can upscale it, you can make it large, you can figure out a process. There's lots of videos on YouTube of how to transfer imagery. I will be making some here in the near future to help you out. Look at Amanda. She is a ceramicist and a garment creator. She makes mostly 3D work, but she's painted multiple murals. She's found a way to translate the art that she makes into a 2D image that you can put on a wall. It's great because, it just, all these reasons I mentioned before. There's a lot of pros to painting murals. There's some cons, but I think the pros far outweigh the cons. And I think you should consider painting murals if you're an artist of any kind. And honestly, this concept can translate to 3D art too. If you're a 3D artist, maybe consider large scale work. It's the same kind of concept, you know? You can get more money for it, it can make you a better artist. I will say that I think 3D work has more risk. There's just a lot more parts that are moving involved. There's a higher price threshold for your materials. There's more tools involved. You need more space to create 3D work. And when you scale up, all of that exponentially increases. So something to consider. But I think it's worth considering large scale work, particularly muralism. If you're a painter, it's a no-brainer. Muralism is on the rise. It's taking over the world. You see more and more murals in big cities popping up, and in little cities too. There's mural festivals going around in Eufaula, Oklahoma. They have a mural festival now, and it transformed the town. There's color everywhere. Some people might even think that muralism, street art in general, is becoming oversaturated. There's just everybody and their sister is becoming a muralist now, and that's maybe deterring you from joining the trend of being a muralist. But I would argue that there are still new buildings being built all over the world. It's not stopping. Development is continuing, and every time I drive around the city, I see gray, ugly walls that could use a nice paint job. I believe that there are more blank walls in the world than there are artists to paint them. So what do you say? Go on, get you some. Get a piece of this pie that is muralism. Set yourself up for financial freedom. Give yourself a creative career and do it with murals. It's possible. You can do it. I hope this brought you value. Leave a comment. Send me your questions. Thanks for tuning in.